I'm Haley Poffel. I'm the Executive Director at Kids Space Child Advocacy Center here in Muskogee. I've been there since 2014 and I've been the director since 2018. At Kids Space, we serve children who have been victims of child abuse and or neglect, and we also work with their families.
My name is Chelsea Brown. I'm the Director of Restoration Behavioral Health here in Muskogee, which is a mental health facility. We work in conjunction with Kids Space Child Advocacy Center to treat the child and adolescent victims of abuse and neglect and exposure to domestic violence. In addition to that, we also serve the Muskogee Police Department. I'm the clinical coordinator for the Blue Line Wellness Initiative here in Muskogee, which provides mental health services for all of the officers with the Muskogee Police Department. So one of the biggest questions that we've had in organizing this is, what's trauma and why does it matter? When we talk about the snowball effect of trauma, we're not necessarily just talking about children, although that's where a lot of times trauma starts. There is a snowball effect that affects the way that children interact both at school and at home, their decisions, their choices. That often leads to behavioral problems at school that then lead to high school dropout rates, substance abuse issues, and then a lot of times the diagnoses that we see in kids, a lot of times that people just attribute to just naturally occurring, things like ADHD, anxiety, depression, a lot of times those are linked to early childhood trauma. Then later on, you're talking about relational issues, divorce rates. You're talking about the incarceration rate for our community, which is really important to consider. And all of those things stem back to looking at the things that have happened to people over the course of their lives, whether they're children, adolescents, or adults.
So if they're receiving that kindness, that empathy, and that grace in every interaction that they have throughout the day, it's literally helping rewire their brain. Their brain has been wired not to trust. Their brain has been wired to be on alert and what's the next threat. And so if they're going out into the community and interacting with people who are kind and loving in their approaches throughout the day, then that child's going to heal quicker because they're having a multitude of positive experiences that are building up over time to help undo some of that hurt that's been done.
How many of our great minds and innovators are falling through the cracks because they're not getting the help that they need, or they're not having that one positive interaction with a coach or a teacher or a youth group worker that could change the tide for them. We might be missing out on our next great writers or our next great medical professionals because they don't see the value in themselves that we need to see. So when we look at the community, a lot of times what we need to be asking ourselves is not necessarily what is trauma, but what are we risking by not being trauma informed.